Thank you for joining us wherever you are. This podcast episode is brought to you by the Old Ways Actual Play team. This actual play uses the 7th edition Call of Cthulhu tabletop role-playing game rules by Chaosium. This actual play is performed by adults and in an adult setting. While we try very hard to stick to language for all ages, listeners should know that this podcast may include mature themes. All content, including names, places, events, companies, and etc., that may bear resemblance to entities living or dead, is strictly coincidental. My name is Michael Diamond, and for tonight's game, I will be your keeper. Thank you for joining us again on another episode of the Old Ways Podcast. I'm your keeper, Keeper Michael, and we return to Horror on the Orient Express, where we are house hunting, evidently, in fair Trieste. At the top of the show, as we always like to do, we'd like to thank our listeners and our Patreon supporters. If you are a listener and not yet a Patreon supporter, you can join them at patreon.com/theoldwayspodcast, and you can join our group of investigators making their way through perils and tribulations, and you could potentially lift their spirits or drop them to the earth to be nothing more than ash and dust. We'll find out soon where they land. For now, though, I'm going to get to introductions, so to my right.
Hello there, this is Mike, and I'm playing James Robert Fraser, and I'm in disguise. I've got a new hat.
Indeed, you fancied yourself a new hat. This is likely a Russian farmer hat, which is all you've been able to attain at Anton's home, and now you'll be making your way in disguise in hopes of getting around the black shirts and getting to figure out where evidently Winkelmann hid his secret family? Who knows? To Mr. Fraser's right.
Hi, I'm Rena. I play Lady Elizabeth Fitzroy, and if on this House Hunters episode we don't find a house that has a room for entertaining a ghost orgy, I'm not interested.
I think it's a completely fair request, a need item that you have on your list, right, that you'd want to check off. Yes, ghost orgy room. Very good. At the end of the table.
Hi, I'm Giles, and I'm playing Simon Griffith. I think I'm just going to be closing the door and sweeping up the room while the other four go out and cause mayhem.
Interesting. I never imagined you buttling, but here we are. To Mr. Griffiths, right?
Hi, I'm Miranda, and I play Maggie Bellinger, and I'm wondering if Richard and I will ever consummate our marriage.
Well, I mean, there's time for everything yet, I imagine. We'll get to it, promise. And last but most certainly not least.
I'm Martin, and I'm playing Richard Courtney. My brain's just died.
No, let's leave it there. That's fine. So, as we raise the curtain tonight, we do so on a walk through the outskirts of Trieste as the Bora wind blows. It is roughly midday. Lady Elizabeth is leading the charge, so to speak, back into town, making sure that they stick to the outer roads and be mindful of any potential police patrols or black shirts waiting in windows. And you are making your way south, due south, in hopes of searching out this secret apartment that was kept. So my question to the group of you, especially those of you at the front, is, in what way are you attempting to disguise yourself from authorities who may know you?
Well, Lady Elizabeth is actually going to take Fraser's arm as if they were a couple, because that would be something completely unexpected for a lady of her stature, especially with a servant. So,
yeah, certainly. And with the Bora wind having a steady arm.
I mean, that helps too.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Absolutely.
Just on the point of disguise, were there some clothes in Anton's house that we could potentially have used, like a different jacket or something like that?
Oh, certainly. Certainly. There are a couple of jackets you could attempt to try on. Anton was a reasonably sized man, although he's probably just a little bit shorter than you. One thing while you were searching his house you would find would be clothes that might remind Mr. Fraser of the war.
A uniform or something like that, puttees or something along.
There's a Russian officer's coat in here.
Interesting. Simon, have you seen this?
No, I haven't seen it, but it doesn't surprise me. Almost everybody around our age is wearing the wall. But
It's an officer's jacket. So
that's surprising. I never made it to the Eastern Front, though. I don't recognize it, but...
Well, you can tell. You can tell straight away it's an officer's jacket. Would I have an idea what rank it was?
As I said, I never made it to the Eastern Front. No clue.
I'm not sure you would know what the rank was specifically. You didn't fight to them directly.
Well, we wouldn't have. They were on the same side as us anyway.
Certainly. Which is why you didn't fight them.
Which is why we didn't fight them. Well, no. I mean, neither was I, but you can tell from the insignia. This is not did he strike you as an officer? Or maybe he's... Well, that's by the by. He's clearly got some sort of a past that he's wanting to get away from.
He struck me as an educated man who got out of Russia ahead of the
Bolsheviks, you mean?
We call them communists in America.
Aye, well, yes, indeed, that was a tumultuous time towards the end of the war. But do you want to play the part of a Russian officer? I wonder if we should just take the insignia off it if we're going to use it. It's a little... stands out a little bit. There might be questions asked if we're approached by a black shirt.
I would say this just by looking at the coat. It is fairly thick and made for cold weather environments.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's a perfect thing to wear.
Except for the Russian insignia.
Mm.
So?
How much... Giles, is Simon quite a bit bigger than James? I think if memory serves, Simon's a pretty huge guy.
Yeah, Simon's got a con of 90.
Yeah, what's his size?
Size is 70.
Oh, he's about the same size as me then, just different proportions. Well, it's up to you. There's some other outerwear here.
Either way, no matter what choices you make, there is cold weather clothing here that you could pick out and you could wear to disguise yourself. I mean, heck, you could put Maggie in the jacket if you wanted to. It might not fit terribly well, but she'd definitely be covered up from the cold. You're able to find clothes to disguise yourself. And thus make your way through town. So I suppose with Lady Elizabeth leading already out the door, likely halfway across the field when this conversation's happening, where specifically are you headed, lady?
The address we were given on the Marco Polo.
So point of order, you were not given a direct address, you were given a street name.
So find the street.
But we know there's carvings on the fascia of the building, don't we? So
you do?
If they're still there, it might be not too hard to find.
Well, Richard, Maggie and Simon should remember it. So all we've got to do is get the right street, have a look around, and we should be... it's that one there.
And as part of my disguise the entire time we're walking, I will be chattering away in French.
I will be disguising myself as Professor Courtney's wife.
Excellent. So you walk across this relatively long field down the outskirt roads of Trieste. You run into a lot of very simple people here. Farmers, some leather workers, a few bakers, that sort of thing, that are working attached to either farmhouses or what are likely larger estates deeper into the city. You work yourself south for probably a good 30 minutes until you come to an area right just north of the city through the back end of these farm fields. There's a large array of fields there and some streets that eventually cut them. And then there are some equally rare trees. So there are some tree lines there that you're able to walk through. The nice part about this surreptitious movement is it does keep you relatively clear of any black shirts. You don't see a single police patrol until you get to a row of houses here along a deserted street. And when you get here, you can tell that there is a tiny black car at the T intersection. This is a road just by map, would go further out of town south. And I would say, Mr. Fraser, you're fairly certain, just by the position of that car and how it's somewhat pointed sideways, that they may be slightly blocking the road, forcing anybody coming in from the south to Trieste to slow down. And anyone attempting egressing would have to go by auto, would have to go past them. You also see that there's the train tracks.
So they're blocking this road here, coming in and out of town, yeah?
They're blocking the south road.
Okay. Do we have any idea where this road that we're looking for is? I seem to recall that I got a map of Trieste.
Yep.
I don't know if I'd still have that to be able to refer to, or whether...
Now, your compatriots would have kept your things. The trunks are still back at Anton's house, so give me a luck roll and we'll see if you've managed to remember to bring the map with.
I mean, I think I probably would remember to bring a map if we're looking for somewhere that would be on a map. Okay, my luck is currently 55. 29.
Oh, fantastic. Yes, here it is. Right in your coat pocket.
Splendid. Right, let's have a wee look here, see what we can see. Alright, we are here, and if I'm not very much mistaken, and I'll try and find the location of the Via Marco Polo.
It is right due east of you. There is a tiny little road here that is not far from your position. That if you walked back east, just north of Shy to grab the road, and then you move east, you can probably get to it. But you're going to have to be careful.
So, skirt round to the north of the railway tracks, is that what you're meaning? Or, or we could actually go along the railway tracks, perhaps, but I don't know how safe that would be. Let's stick to the side roads and try and avoid. It might be worth one of us just going a little ahead of the others, just to keep an eye out in case there is another one of these roadblocks. There's a road to the north which leads out of town. They may well have a block there as well.
Okay, so?
Simon, do you want to take point, as it were? Or shall I?
Well, since you're the faster one of us, you probably should take point. I've developed a slight limp since my visit to Trieste.
Understood. So I'll go just a little bit ahead of the others, just so that I can keep a lookout to see if there's any other black shirt activity the way that we're planning on going.
Fair enough. That is a spot hidden roll.
Okay. That is an 11 under 86.
Ooh, that is an extreme success, sir. So you find the single lone pathway you believe that would lead between where you are and where you need to go without encountering any black shirts. It's not an easy path, but once you've mentally highlighted it, you think you can scout your people through it.
Okay, I'll come back and relay that to the others. So I found a wee pathway and alleyway that should take us the way we want to go. It's a little less than direct route, but I think it should be safe enough. You have to mind your footing, your ladyship, and you, Simon.
All right. Investigators follow along. So this pathway is fairly serpentine. It's the only way to put it. Left and right, on more than one occasion. And eventually you have to sort of ease yourself down into a lower elevation by way of a few stone steps that are pretty steep. It doesn't look like they used to always be this steep, but the path that Fraser took leads you directly to them. Once you're there, you're on a quiet neighborhood street. And Professor, this is when you begin to see these relief works that have been done. You start seeing them in between the homes, and so you remember some of the sketches from the book, and you think, yeah, this has got to be the place. Here's where all these reliefs are. It's got to be here somewhere.
Richard will point this out. Look, I believe this is the sort of thing we're looking for. Maggie, Simon, do you remember the exact ones?
I'm not sure, but what was supposed to be... There's the specific architecture we're looking for, right?
Yes, quite.
So, Lady Elizabeth, you'd be fairly certain that given the street name and given the book and given everything you've written, or everything you've read, and the information you have poised from your fellow investigators from the sketchbook, that this tour guide, this grand tour book that was left there, mentioned that the relief was of this Bacchus figure.
Well, that looks about right.
So finding the house on Marco Polo is not difficult. The difficulty, though, comes on its approach. So this villa looks deserted. The door to it has been padlocked. Luckily for the group, there aren't many passerbys. You don't see a whole lot of people on the street here, and that could be because the Bora here, the wind is pretty fierce.
Mm-hmm.
But there isn't a whole lot of traffic.
Is this house completely detached, or is it terraced with other houses, apartments?
It's completely detached, and James, you would notice, given your life of service, you would notice that this house looks like it may have been some sort of bed and breakfast at some point. There's some sort of... the configuration of the house is different than a lot of the other homes around here in that the villa looks like it may have played sort of like the role of maybe an inn or a...
Yeah, all right. So first thing, if the front of it is facing the street and it looks like it's closed up and padlocked up, are the windows boarded up or anything like that? Or?
They are not boarded up, no.
But he'd like to have a look, do a sort of circuit of the house, see if there's a garden and perhaps a rear entrance. There's the tradesman's entrance or something along those lines.
Okay. Why don't you give me first a stealth roll?
I will do that. My stealth is 69.
Nice.
And that's just under 64.
So you move about the house. First left, check down, see if there's a tradesman's entrance or a service entrance, and you don't see one on the left-hand side. Again, the homes here have... I would say that they probably have a small, probably separated by small walls or other shrubbery to give a sense of privacy. The streets themselves are a little narrow, but the properties themselves, again, are a little bit... The estates here are a little bit wider. On the right-hand side, however, you do see that there is a secondary door than the main door that could be accessed if you were to decide to move into the grounds themselves.
Is there a kind of garden area with trees or shrubbery or anything like that around the back that seems to be part of the estate of the house?
Not that you see.
Okay. So what does it back onto? Does it back onto a little lane that goes between other houses?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, I'll go back to the others and just report that.
I guess we could attempt to get in via the rear.
Phrasing.
It's certainly possible, depending on how determined you are.
And that might be less conspicuous.
Well, yes. I mean, I know it's not very busy, but less people to spot us. Do you have your magic hat pin again?
Oh, yes, of course.
I'm sure if we were to go around the back, we'd be in like a jiffy. In a jiffy.
All right. Is that what the group is going to attempt? Have Maggie pick her way through the back door?
Richard uses my pick to pick through the door.
Very good. So, Professor, tool in hand, you go to the back door.
Phrasing.
So, Richard goes round to the back door. Is it sort of just like a normal door lock or a padlock?
No, so this door on the back has also been padlocked, much like the front.
Okay.
And so it seems they need to keep people out.
So Richard will take the hat pin and apply a bit of pressure, wiggle it around, and hopefully it'll come off. It's only a normal success with a 28 and a 30.
Normal success. Okay. So you tinker with this lock for a little bit. And the toughest part for you is that your hand gets a little cold because you have to hold the padlock while you move it to keep a fair idea of where the tumblers are inside the mechanisms. And as you do, you pull a bit of, not ice so much, but just precipitation that had built up on the back of the lock between that and the wall. And you feel the lock give finally. And you need to pull down on the housing of the lock to turn the padlock so you can get it off. And you do so reasonably quietly enough. The chain you grab just at the last moment to keep it from flapping against the side of the house and causing a complete racket.
There we go, Maggie. I think there truly is something magical about this hat pin.
This seems to have worked again. After you, Richard?
Oh, right. I am Simon, perhaps?
Yeah, what would you want me to do?
Oh, I would have thought... did you want to go first?
All right, I'll go ahead.
Simon, do you have a flashlight?
No, could you pass me one, please?
Unfortunately, mine broke.
That is very true.
Professor, do you have something?
Yes, I do. Here, there we are.
Right, Simon's going to enter first, looking around.
Okay. You enter the back door here, and you are let into a rather cavernous space. High walls, ceilings. You see a few rats scurry as you enter. It's very cold in here. It's even colder than it is outside in here.
Is it dusty? Or does it look occupied?
It is very dusty.
No footprints in the dust?
No footprints, cobwebs. This place looks like it's a receiving room or something. It's a room right before you go to one of the main spaces.
Okay, just for grits and shins, Simon's going to roll Spirit Lore since you said it's colder in here than outside.
Go right ahead.
I get to click that. I rolled a 5. And that would be under, I believe, a 7. Hold on, let me get this back open. Spirit Lore of 9. Yes. It's not quite a hard success.
Yeah, this place definitely feels like it's got something attached to it. You can feel it here, just in this first room. The temperature drop, the cobwebs, no footprints, but maybe that dust shows there's a trail that's been left. There's something here.
Lady E?
Yes, Mr. Griffith?
I have a feeling, from my knowledge back home, this place, I think it's haunted.
Oh, yes, I was expecting something of the sort. Thank you.
Well, has Lady E entered yet?
Yes, I came in right behind you.
The temperature, you feel that temperature shift? That is not natural.
No, I was expecting ghosts.
Well, now we know.
It's nice to have a confirmation, thank you.
Now, you mentioned a slight trail.
Yeah, it seems like the dust, it looks to you, Simon, like somebody was carrying a blanket, right? As if there's no feet per se, no footsteps, but you can see that there's swishes left and right on some of the dust pattern on the floor here.
Or could it be a body dragged?
Could be.
All right.
Simon, is it safe in there? Can we come in?
You can come in, but we're going to be dealing with haints, most likely. This place is haunted. You can laugh at me if you want to.
Miss Ballinger, Professor, Inigo, and I'll...
Yeah, Maggie would just kind of like sigh at the thought of ghosts because it's been there, done that, old news. She'll just walk in.
Lady E, meanwhile, is having an actual look around out of curiosity because she's not interested in everybody else at the moment. She wants to find out what's going on in here.
Okay.
And Simon's going to try and track that swish.
Okay.
I will take a careful look around outside before following the rest of them in and closing the door behind me.
And that's a 30 on 30.
Simon, you track this swish portion to a centralized, we'll say, receiving area inside the villa. So the villa looks like at one point was an inn or maybe a hotel of some sort. So to one side of this space, Simon, you see a reception desk that rots amidst these cobwebs. On the other, there's an open doorway here that leads to what might have been at some point a tavern, some sort of space for food and drink while guests arrived. Beyond the desk, you see there's a corridor. It looks like it leads towards the one side or one maybe the back of the building.
I can follow my own footprints back to the others.
Certainly.
You said it because I'm in the center of the building now, correct?
You are now. Yeah, you can see the front doorway from where you're at.
Is Simon the only one with a light source?
I do believe so, yes.
Can I look around for any lamps or anything like that?
You can, yes. And there's a lamp there, and there's a lamp there. It looks like they're oil lamps, though.
Do they have any oil still in them?
Doesn't appear so.
I'll grab one and bring it back to the group.
Okay. So the group seems to be like it seems to be like you are going to fan out a little bit.
Not without light, we're not. Going to be stumbling around in the dark.
Well, Lady Elizabeth already has.
I'm presuming, unless, it's daylight just now, are there curtains that are drawn? Is there actually light coming in through the windows?
So the curtains are drawn. There are no lights coming in through the windows. And your concern with that, Fraser, would be that obviously opening these curtains would be a dead giveaway that someone was in the house. I guess I'll ask Lady Elizabeth, where are you investigating?
I have a torch we've established before I have one. So it's just flashing around, seeing if there's any books or any of that weird frost pattern I noticed last night, any of the things that would normally catch my interest.
So beyond that front desk, you step down a corridor during your investigation. You walk with the flashlight, being very careful. You get about halfway or so down that corridor, probably 30 or so feet, and I'll ask for a spot hidden.
Okie doke. 47 under 63.
See a collection of spider webs, and there's a single sort of dark piece of matter at the center of them. It's about as big as a quarter.
I will go have a look.
It looks like a beetle.
A living beetle or...
No, it's deceased as well. This is a Death Watch beetle.
Interesting.
Not far from that location, as far as the beetle goes, you see that there is a stairway that leads up. Miss Bellinger, you're not far probably from the back door, but you've wandered down into the tavern area. And inside the tavern area, you see there's probably 4 or 5 tables here with an assortment of chairs. There's some old empty wine bottles that are stacked up on the bar here. And while you're in the tavern area, I'll have you give me a spot hidden roll.
That is a 20 under 48, so hard success.
You notice the wine bottles have been opened far more recently than the cobwebs show. And you can even smell alcohol in the air at the top of the bottles. Fragrance of the wine is still there.
I would probably let my nose do the investigating, sniff around, kind of hold them up, see if there's anything left in any of these at all.
There is another scent that's here on these wine bottles. It's a perfume. You've smelled it before. You haven't smelled it since...
Oh, no.
Well, it's been a little while.
Mm-hmm.
But it's an unmistakable smell.
Maggie drops the bottle.
Maggie?
What was that?
Maggie, are you okay?
I'm fine, but I think that someone that we know has been here before.
Who?
What was his name? Come here, Richard. Smell this. It smells like the Duke.
Oh, he was in I don't remember. The place with the deer. Yes, I remember.
Last time we saw him was on the train, was it not?
Yes,
pulled back.
And he disappeared.
Yes.
Yes, Lausanne. That was the place.
But these bottles have been freshly drunk, and I can smell him here.
Right.
My revolver is in my hand.
What if he's gotten the body part before us?
Who?
I think he was looking for the scrolls, not the body parts, if I remember correctly.
Maggie does not care about scrolls.
Simon's
But
He only cares about body
that's
parts.
That's out of character because Lady E is already heading up the stairs.
Yeah.
So.
Right.
Okay, so Lady E is heading up the stairs, but the noise from Maggie is off to the left in the tavern.
It's to your, well, technically, yeah, it's to your left.
I'm not letting her ladyship go anywhere on her own, especially if the Duke fella might be about. I'm headed after her.
Okay. Go ahead.
Simon's going to head over to the tavern area where the broken bottle was.
Mm-hmm.
Miss Maggie, Professor, are we splitting up?
Yes.
Because Lady E and Jim are heading upstairs.
Well, it would seem that way.
All right. I think I better stay with y'all. Though I did get shot last time I did.
Well, who did get shot the last time?
Okay, so Lady Elizabeth, you are going to mount an effort to get upstairs?
Oh, yes, I'm fully engrossed in the mystery at the moment. I'm not paying attention to anything else.
Fantastic. You make your way upstairs.
I know.
As you do so, I'll have you make a dexterity roll for me.
And I'm hurrying after her as best I can, so I don't know what point I'll catch up with her.
Nope, 86 over 55.
Yes, as I thought might happen, with her ladyship's grace, even though under pressure it has always afforded her solid footing, the Death Watch beetles have seen to the wood here. And the stair that you're on, say about the third or fourth one up, collapses. As it does, you fall, and not completely. What happens is that your right leg falls through the stair, and you are able to, for the moment, grab onto the rickety stair railing, and you're clawing at other things now. This is something, of course, James, you hear as you're moving down that hallway to get back to her. You hear the crash of wood, the call from Lady Elizabeth, obviously that's being spooked. And so what I'll ask her to do as you arrive on scene is to make a strength roll to keep from falling through the staircase.
That's even worse. I only have 35 in strength. And that's an 88.
Push the roll.
Not pushing a 35, Spike.
Oh, where's your sense of adventure?
I'll tell you what, Lady Elizabeth, I will spend a hand of fate and give you an advantage die on that roll.
Thank you, Hand of Fate.
You've gotten several of them recently.
Ooh, that's a 20, so that's 28. Thank you, Hand of Fate.
You barely hang on. Fingertips into the wood. You can feel the sort of the weak wood under your fingernails as you claw and hold on, and you can see your own fingers begin to make etching marks through the grains of the wood here. Mr. Fraser, you reach her, and she is in a terrible state.
Do I need to make any form of dexterity roll to prevent the same fate occurring to me? Because I don't know that there are Death Watch beetles.
Indeed, you do. So if you would go ahead and make a dexterity roll.
I have a dex of 60, and that's a 30. Hard success. Bang on.
So two things happen. You get to the second stair where you know you can easily reach her. You put your left foot down on that stair, and you hear the creak before something terrible happens. You move your foot wide left towards the wall to get more support because you see and feel that there are more stairs here that are weak, and you're actually able to get to her and help her back up out of this hole that she's fallen into.
Okay, I think I'll, unless she prevents me from doing so, I'll help her back down the stairs again.
Yeah, seems fair. So it's at this point, once you're recovered, Lady Elizabeth, that you're looking at the stairs with the torch and whatnot, that you see several of the inner portions of this, the stairs here have really rotted.
Well, someone hasn't been doing their job in housekeeping.
You were lucky there, Your Ladyship. Well done. You could have hurt yourself quite badly. This place is a death trap.
Oh, I'm sure it would have been fine.
Did you hear or see something upstairs?
No, not particularly. Just looked interesting.
I think it's best we stick together as best we can. shouldn't go off on our own in this place. It's entirely possible that somebody from our past travels is here somewhere.
Well, as long as we can actually go around looking for things instead of standing around listening to you and Mr. Griffith arguing about ghosts, I'm fine with that.
Both of you make a spot hidden roll.
I said nothing about ghosts.
No, but you've had arguments before. 46 under 63.
Okay, 46 under 63.
I steadfastly refuse to have an argument about it this time. Spot hidden, you say, yeah?
Yes, sir.
That's an 87. I'll spend 1 point to make that a success. 1 point of luck, if I may.
You may. There is a faint light coming in from a window at the top of the stairs. You notice it because you feel the breeze that comes along with it. The breeze from the Bora wind outside flutters this sort of faintly blue curtain. And with it, a ray of light comes down through the staircase.
Sunlight coming from outside then, yeah?
It seems like that. It's overcast today, but there is light. That light begins to ignore the confines of reality. And it moves from being a beam, and it moves left as an object now at the top of the stairs, and slowly begins to step down each one of these stairs. And I'll have you make both you make sand rolls.
Hooray!
Huzzah. I pass 56 under 68.
And I pass 31 under 43.
Since the both of you have been before, in some cases, been accosted by ghosts of other types and shapes, potentially, this ghost is something that your brain can handle. So there is no loss of sanity at seeing this. Congratulations. And so, this shape, this light, begins to extend into a humanoid form. It grows vertically in front of you.
Making a step just to protect her ladyship, just to kind of stand a little ahead of her, not directly in front of her, because I have no doubt that she'll be fascinated by this and will just push me out of the way. So.
Yes, let me see.
So having had a recent experience with ghosts, Lady Elizabeth, this is clearly interesting for you. Although this ghost is a little different. It's a shorter man. He's dressed in black antique clothing as he continues to approach, about halfway down the staircase at this point. He carries a leather satchel. Is not of the current period. And you can tell that the face that the spirit has is very similar to some of the paintings and some of the other descriptive texts that you've read about Winkelmann. He descends the stairs, moves very slowly. It almost is like he's underwater.
Does he seem to be aware of us being there? Is he paying us any attention?
He doesn't appear to even see you. The stairs don't even creak under his movements. He gets to the bottom of the stairs in front of you, pauses. He turns and looks back up the stairs, almost like he's listening for something. So he has a very cadaverous pallor to him. You see that there's signs of decay that are riddled into his flesh. And either pieces of it that sort of fleck off and become nothing in front of you. He turns his head again. You see that there's a gash on his neck. It's wicked and ugly. And from it, a very rather large maggot drops out and onto the floor, disintegrating moments later. He moves down the hallway, deeper into the villa. And so I'll move back to the tavern really quick. After the bottle has been surmised, what other investigations are you doing inside the tavern, Miss Bellinger?
I'd say kind of a general look around, seeing if I can spot anything roughly body part shaped or sized. Maybe feel around for hidden compartments.
Yeah, you give the room a good look over, even a touch and feel in certain places. You don't see anything that's amiss in here, except for the bottles. The bottles are very strange. They're the only 3 bottles left, or now 2, since you shattered one, that are left in the place.
Yeah, I would move on then to the next closest room if possible.
You'd have to go back out and then back down the long hallway to where the staircase is.
Yep, that's what I would do then.
Okay.
Question before Simon leaves following them. I'm assuming the professor is going with Maggie.
Richard, as he sees Maggie trying to leave this area, will probably say something along the lines of, I wonder if there's a basement here. I think that might be the right place to look.
Richard, this actually brings up a good point. We talked about using the device as a shortcut. Would this be an appropriate time to use it since we believe we're in the right place?
Yes, what a splendid idea. And without further ado, Richard will just stick the device.
Before Richard slams that thing on his face, can I look at the floor for any footprints besides our own? Since there are the bottles on the thing?
Yeah, you don't see any other footprints in here. Although, to be fair, it's a little hard to tell because there's been 3 or 4 people in here now.
And Maggie, I'm assuming, did not take her medicine this morning. So she's feeling extra fervent.
I tend to agree.
About finding a body part now. It's kicking in.
Good. All right. So, Professor, we all know how this works. You're going to tell me what lenses you'll be using.
So, one of the lenses we'll be using is definitely the blue one. And also, I'm just tossing up whether to... Yes. Let's try the black one. Let's try the black one with the blue one.
All right. Black and blue we shall make you.
Black and blue. Right.
So, it's a power roll.
Which is a pass, 73 under 80.
All right. You put it on your face. 73 out of 80. And now we'll roll a d6 for you. Spend 3 magic. With 3 MP gone, the device locks into place on your face. And you begin looking around. And this place is filled with people. The tavern is alive with people eating and drinking and doing all sorts of things. You can tell this is 150 plus years ago, just by the way people are dressing. You can't understand what they're saying because, of course, they're all speaking in Italian. For you, Miss Bellinger, and you, Mr. Griffith, what you see from Richard is the entirety under his collar, all the skin that's under there begins to glow. And he now sort of has this ambient glow. And you can watch the thread colors come up through his neck, get into and replace the sort of vital vein colors that are here in someone's neck with blue and black.
Simon turns off his flashlight since he doesn't need it anymore with a glow stick in the middle of the room.
Seems fair. Where are you directing yourself, Professor?
So Richard is looking for, if possible, a concentration of threads. So he's looking for these threads.
Back out of here for sure. I mean, there are threads here, but they're not connected in the same way that you're looking for.
Yeah, so he might actually take a look at Maggie to see if there are any threads from Maggie that lead to a particular direction in the house.
Okay, so Miss Bellinger, Richard begins to stare at you.
Mm-hmm.
And you realize that he isn't just looking at something. You actually see, you get the feeling that he's looking at you. You see him move his head to one side a little bit. And you can see on the other side of the device, which one lens is blue and one lens is black. And You get a very... It seems you're being stared at by somebody, and so...
It makes perfect sense to me, because we've already determined the connection between me and the body parts. So, and we've called me a divining rod before, and so it makes sense to me that Richard would be looking at me to see if there's possibly any strings or connections leading from me to one thing or another.
For your part, Richard, you don't see any threads coming off of her that lead in any specific direction, but there does seem to be a fair amount of them glowing out near the reception area.
Richard will go in that direction.
Okay.
Maggie follows.
As I'm assuming that Mr. Griffith does soon thereafter.
With pistol out in the open.
Okay. So back into the hallway, the three of you walk, of course, Professor first. And it's at this point that Mr. Fraser and Lady Elizabeth have seen that ghostly Winkelmann spirit turn and go deeper down the hallway. And what you see, Richard, is it looks like there's something like a chemical is burning in the hallway there as far as the energy level. And you can see Lady Elizabeth's form and then Mr. Fraser's form just in front of you. And they seem to be following this thing too.
Strange. So, are there any threads coming from this thing in any go into any particular direction in the house, or is it sort of fairly evenly spread?
No, it's actually not. This thing is uneven as all get out. The threads that come off of this are broken, disjointed, and they seem to almost crackle along the spaces here, as if they don't want to be here. Imagine that you're forcing too much electricity through a device.
Yeah.
Which is something you'd know fairly well. And yeah, it seems like whatever they're walking behind is either maybe unfriendly or just doesn't want to be here.
Richard's going to try and imagine himself, so rather than actually physically walking, he's going to try and project his being sort of towards it.
Okay. You're going to attempt to project your will.
Yes.
Out of your... Let me get this straight. Out of your body.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Give me a hard power roll.
37, which is just a hard power roll.
Mr. Griffith, the professor collapses in front of you.
Okay, I'm going to pick the professor up since the light's off. I'm going to put my pistol back in my coat pocket, use both hands to pick him up. I can see him clearly because he's the light source we're looking at with his blue and black threads. And I check his pulse.
Okay, you check his pulse. There's definitely a pulse there. Martin, roll me a D10 for the professor, would you?
Oh, that's an 8. That's probably not good.
Why don't you spend 8 MP for me?
Ooh.
How much MP you got?
5.
5 left?
Yep.
Oh, good. You have somehow, some way, continued to walk down the hallway. Mr. Fraser, Lady Elizabeth, this ghost continues to walk down the hallway until it reaches a staircase that goes down. And I'm going to assume Lady Elizabeth's continuing to follow the ghost. Yeah, I thought so.
Yeah. Mr. Fraser is also following very, very cautiously with his pistol in hand.
So,
ready to grab hold of the scruff of Lady Elizabeth's neck and pull her back from certain doom.
I can only imagine. He continues. He moves down to this cellar door. This set of stairs, just looking it over, Mr. Fraser, doesn't seem to be as in bad of repair.
I'll believe that when I see it. I'm going to take Lady Elizabeth's arm if she'll let me. If we're following this thing down the stairs.
As long as you're not trying to stop me, yes, I'll allow it.
One cellar wall to the right is made of large dressed stones. These are set curiously into the steps, so the wall slopes away towards the ceiling. The steps appear to have been used at one point as shelves. And there's a broken wine rack and some empty rotting sacks on one of these steps. If either one of you have archaeology, free to roll it. I will give Mr. Griffith a roll when he arrives there.
I have 1% in archaeology.
Then you may roll.
I also have one, but there's no way this is going to work.
Let's fumble some archaeology.
Nope, 46.
Yay! 96!
You fumble one.
Oh, yeah.
Clearly, these stairs have... This area here has very special meaning. You'll have to come back to it, you're certain.
Fascinating. Byzantine dynasty, if I'm not very much mistaken.
The ghost continues to walk down the steps, and then you see him pull something out of the satchel. It's a very small pry bar. He holds it aloft. He pries up the flagstone that's at the bottom of these stairs. He then scoops something out of the soil beneath, and then reaching into his satchel again, he pulls out a fist-sized object wrapped in some sort of cloth. And as he does, very carefully, you see that he's holding a gold medallion. There's a look of great disquiet across this spirit's face. And you watch his form, Richard, shudder in existence. Like he almost collapses as an object.
Have they all caught up with us now?
Yeah, they're behind you. Your perceptions are mostly in front of you watching this go on, but you can hear that some of your compatriots are beginning to join you. He rewraps it and pushes it underneath the stone and then resets the flagstone, wiping his hands clean, right? The ghost stamps on the flagstone, although no sound is made. And he turns away, and you see him climb back up the stairs towards you. And if you didn't know it any better, Lady Elizabeth, you would think that Winkelmann is looking you in the eye.
I'll stare back at him.
He gets to within hand reach of you, and then nose to nose, he becomes air.
Did anyone bring a crowbar?
When you turn around, now that this spirit has somehow evaporated, Mr. Fraser, you see that Mr. Griffith is carrying Richard's body, the device securely attached to his eyes.
Simon, is he all right?
He's alive. He's got a pulse, but...
He seems to have fainted.
He did this before, did he not?
Well, another time he just vanished. But this time at least he's still here. Let's look on the bright side.
I thought he'd collapsed in was it the museum or the church? I can't remember now. It was at least 3 days ago.
We Richard put it on to see if we could find anything. Have you found anything?
Well, I mean, Fraser kind of looks at Lady Elizabeth.
Yes, there's a ghost, as I believe you mentioned, Mr. Griffith, of Mr. Winkelmann, and I do believe we want to have a look down these stairs.
So Professor, for you in your current out-of-bodied state, at the bottom of the stairs, deep below the stone here, there is an emanation. There's some sort of power that rests beneath the stairs here. The feeling that you get from it is a tornadic amount of energy is beneath these stairs.
Can Richard continue to move in the direction of this power? He's
certainly
kind of fascinated by it, really.
You've got no body. Spend a point of magic.
Yep. Time to fall.
Mm-hmm.
He's going to see if he can reach out and touch this thing.
Okay, so that's a power roll.
Okay.
It'll be required for you to attempt to either lift the stone or go through the stone.
He's going to try and go through it.
Yeah.
63.
And Richard's power is...
80, sorry. Yeah.
You can't seem to reach through the stone here. You get very close to reaching the object that's on the other side of it, this immense sort of swirling vortex of power, but you can't seem to grasp it.
Can he try harder? Literally willing himself to push that a little more.
Certainly, I would allow you to push the roll. I suppose it would be important as your keeper to remind you that failed push rolls are bad.
Yeah. But
go ahead, spend a point of magic before you make the push roll.
Down to 3.
Yep.
Using the lucky amethyst dice. 55.
Okay, so 55 isn't any better than you succeeded last time.
Nope.
And so that's a failed push roll. Okay. So I'm going to take 2 more points of magic on the failed push roll. And I'm going to push you back to your body.
Cool.
Your MP's at what, 0?
1.
1. Oh, still conscious.
1. Yep.
So you come back with a big breath intake, and you feel the device sort of sizzle on the side of your head. And your eyes are glowing just as much as your body is now. And you realize something, that everything here is speckled a little bit black and brown now. And because you would be the first to notice, likely, Maggie, Richard's eyes have taken on a very sinister, deep blue color now. The normal flecks are gone, and the whites of his eyes are now even darker.
Richard, it appears your eyes have changed again.
What do they look like now?
Maggie will kind of stare into Richard's eyes as she describes them to him.
Well, I'm not sure if that's better than a rainbow, or I shall keep wearing my shades, I think.
It's probably for the best.
Yes, I do look forward to ridding ourselves of this cursed thing.
So, Lady Elizabeth, you are intent, of course, on getting to the prize. But you don't know that you can pull up the flagstone by yourself. So you've asked for a crowbar and no one has answered.
Mr. Fraser, would you mind asking Mr. Griffith if he brought his crowbar? And I'm going to start down the stairs.
I will probably quickly follow to help Lady Elizabeth.
Fraser will look at Simon and with this kind of, well, have you expression on his face.
Well, I did not specify if I did, but we were doing a little B&E, so
I think there's
do you
a
want to
reason.
give me a luck roll with a bonus dice or something?
So I want to give you a bonus die.
Did we know we were going to do a break-in entry when we headed from
It's possible Simon thought you might have been
the cottage in the countryside?
I will give you a luck roll to see if you have found a way to perhaps carry something extra with you.
While he's doing that, I'll go down the stairs and have a look and see if there's anything in the cellar.
I have a 15 luck. That's a 53.
No, you haven't managed to secret yourself a crowbar today.
So I'm going to go follow Lady Elizabeth down the stairs and look around in this cellar to see if there's anything that would we could employ as leverage.
Honestly, there just isn't. There's a lot of things here in the cellar that probably at once were useful, but the storage containers that are all here are all wood. Maybe you could make something out of this.
Break a storage container and use a bit of wood and try and jam it into the if there's a gap between the flagstones and just use that to lever it up enough to get my fingers underneath it and then pull it up with sheer brute strength.
I love it. Go for it.
Okay, what would you like? Just a strength roll?
Yeah, I think a strength roll is probably a fair assessment of what you need.
Okay. That is 42 under 60, so that's a normal success.
So it's going to take all of your strength to keep the flagstone up while whomever is there might want to investigate while you hold it in place because it is so heavy.
Yep.
I'm investigating. I'm right there.
You are investigating the hole.
Can I give Jim a hand?
You probably could if you get your fingers onto the flagstone and give it a little bit more security. There's no need for a strength roll on it, but we'll just take it into account if there's any, we'll say, accidental things that happen.
Can we just move it out of the way? Are we strong enough to move it out of the way?
The two of you at your leverage points right now are not in a great position to completely move out of the way. It's very big and it's very heavy. Although, what Simon's strength is, 80?
Yes.
Yeah, I'll give you a roll for it, sure, if you want to completely move it out of the way.
That's an 84.
That is a try and fail. Would you care to push, sir?
As a good miner, I am not scared of stone.
Famous last words.
That's a 49 under 80.
Okay, you pull it up.
James Fraser is remembering in the back of his head a moment in the gardens of a house just outside Paris where a certain Simon Griffith smacked his fingers with a hammer, and as he holds the flagstone and Simon's trying to get a slight purchase underneath it, he's very, very tempted just to accidentally let go.
Well, how tempted are you?
Not tempted enough to actually do it, but still tempted.
Fair enough. So with a redoubling of effort, you do manage to get it out of the way, Simon. And that clears we'll say, a fair amount of space for people to go reaching down into the darkness and seeing what they find. Most of what's under the flagstone is dirt, by the way.
That's fine. I'm more interested in what's under the dirt.
Okay. So you feel eventually a somewhat cold, rotted cloth.
Wrinkle my nose slightly, but pull on it.
Okay. You feel something heavy.
Too heavy for me to move?
Not at all. It comes through.
All right. Then I will have a look at what's inside.
You open up the cloth and you see a beautiful gold medallion. Lady Elizabeth, you hear off in the distance a terrifying howl. It fills your ears, it resonates around inside your brain, and you're going to roll sanity for me.
45 under 68.
You take a point of sanity loss.
Okay. I think involuntarily I'm just going to clutch the medallion tighter.
You clutch the medallion tighter, and suddenly something falls away from your body. And that is any concern over the cold. You are no longer cold.
It's gotten a little warmer in here. Marvelous.
No, it has not. What did you find, Lady Elizabeth?
Just you Americans. You're not used to the cold of Europe. It's fine. Oh, just medallion.
The missing one, I'm assuming?
I assume so. Have a look at it.
The medallion itself on one side has been decorated by some sort of strange hieroglyphs. You're not familiar with them. On the other side, with a relief, that relief has some sort of entity, some sort of being there. It's sort of a human shape, but in your hand, Lady Elizabeth, the shape seems to writhe back and forth.
Michael, question. Are the symbols on this the sort of thing that might be recognized by perhaps a Cthulhu Mythos roll?
You know, I would give you a Cthulhu Mythos roll if
not
Lady...
for me, for her
okay.
ladyship.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I only have 5 in Cthulhu Mythos, but I can give it a try.
Sure.
Always be fun if I fumbled, right?
Fun.
Oh. If I spend 5 points of luck, I can make it.
I will not allow you to spend luck on Mythos rolls. Sorry, not the way my games work.
So close.
You heartless bastard.
When you stare very deeply at this medallion, you hear that blood-curdling call again. It's if an after echo has appeared. But this medallion is sacred to you. You feel its innate importance.
It was meant for me to find. I mean, he was looking at me, so he must have meant for me to have it. So it's mine now. Just can't stop looking at it, just kind of flipping it over and just holding on to it.
I would say the medallion is roughly 4 inches in diameter. So it's fairly sizable around. There's a heavy chain that goes with it. And it is definitely something that is unique to perceive. And I would say this to you, Mr. Fraser, because you saw not only the medallions, but the wake that they left. in the cart, this is an exact fit for the medallion that is missing, just by visual.
Well, I think we can go now. Got what we came for.
Well, one of the things that we were looking for, would it be wise to search this house to see if there's any sign of the piece of the simulacrum as well?
I found evidence that the Duke may have been here.
And I clutch the medallion a little tighter, but he can't have it. I don't care if he's here, he can't have it.
Well, of course, yes, we're not going to let him take anything from us. But I'm worried perhaps he missed this, but he did find something else, or it would seem that he is in town.
The spirit did come from upstairs and kept looking back up the stairs, so perhaps there's something up there?
Yes.
We haven't found Winkelmann's library yet, have we? He's a book-learned man, right?
Yes, we should look upstairs. Maggie starts to head back.
Be careful on the stairs, Miss Ballinger. They are somewhat rotten. I think this place is infested.
Oh, thank you for the warning, Mr. Fraser.
We should keep this amulet handy. I wonder if maybe we might need to trade it for the part of the simulacrum.
No. Not trading? No. We just... What ridiculous nonsense.
Well, I mean...
We're not trading anything. We'll find it. It'll be fine. Just still looking at the coin. I haven't looked up at anybody since then.
You're trying to make out what strange language it is.
I need to know.
So, Miss Ballinger, you make your way upstairs very carefully through the broken, tread that's there.
Mm-hmm.
And you find a smaller bedroom with an adjoining, what looks like office. Inside this office room, it appears that there are what looks like the remains of a crib. There's nothing inside of it. All of the fabrics have been eaten away, and any mattresses there is surely just gone.
Mm-hmm.
But there is a desk there, and there's the remains, anyway, of an ink bottle and what likely would have been a holder for a pen, and a small shelf nearby that has a couple of books on it.
Maggie is getting a little more excitable now, so she's what is effectively going to be tossing the joint. Looking in nooks and crannies. I'll peek at the books, see what the titles say. If they're interesting, I'll throw them in my bag. If not, I'll toss them to the side. See if there's any letters or anything in the desk that might give me a clue.
One of the books that you thumb through rather quickly is a journal that got started about a series of caves that is supposed to be in the area. It looks like they're not notes on its geographical nature or the technical parts of a cave system at all. It looks like they're notes from in the first person on sort of how to approach them. Things someone would be wanted to be remembered when they went in them, and it almost looks like a list an investigator might make of how to be careful in their approach.
Always with these damn caves. I'll pocket the book.
Okay, you pocket the book.
Continue my toss.
You continue to toss. You don't find anything else of interest there. It's really just this one notebook that seems of interest. You do find some... you find a letter, I would say, from an unsent letter, half-written, that seems to match some of the journaling handwriting you read in Winkelmann's diary.
Yep, so we know it's from Winkelmann.
And it looks like he was writing to someone in Germany, likely a woman, although you can't make out, given your level of German, what specifically is said here. This does not look like a business letter, though. There's no letterhead. There's no any sort of formal titles to it.
Yeah, I'll probably just quick pocket that too. Maybe someone else will be interested in reading it. And then, are there any other rooms upstairs?
There are not.
Maggie will be disappointed, let out a sigh, that it seems like we're gonna have to go back to some caves. I have bad cave memories, and then I'll head downstairs.
You have been fully focused, Lady Elizabeth, on this medallion since you've got it, and you're now determined to figure out what this writing means. It's very important that you figure out what this writing is.
I have to know.
And so, as the investigators likely exit the villa, I would care to just be to ask, will they be headed back to Anton's house as a point of safety?
It's probably getting late enough in the day that we probably should.
Before we leave, though, Mr. Fraser wants to have a look about to see if the Duke was here. Why was he here? What did he do? Because it seems like he didn't retrieve the amulet. He didn't retrieve this book that Maggie's found. So what was he doing here? I mean, he surely didn't just come into the house fairly recently to drink some wine and then go off again. So he wants to have a look around to see if he can find anything looks like it's been disturbed, sort of searched, or...
Well, I mean, like, apart from the flagstone in the basement or the broken stairs going upstairs, the smashed bottles and
No, but the flagstone at the bottom of the stairs hadn't been disturbed.
No, that's what I'm saying. Like, you are free to make spot hidden rolls in a general search. I have no problem with that.
Yeah.
Go right ahead.
So, yeah, I mean, based on the fact that we think the Duke's been here, from what we can tell is he's been and had some wine. But that's it. And that doesn't make sense. It doesn't seem likely that he would just come into the house to drink some of the Professor Winkelmann's fine wine. So in theory, there must be some other reason he was here. And Fraser he wants to have a look about the house to see if he can figure out what he was here for.
Yeah, I would. So, no, he wasn't there for it. I will say this: Simon was there for it. So.
But I mean, I'm presuming we've discussed the fact that I mean, we've definitely discussed the fact that we think the Duke was here.
Mm-hmm. Well, wouldn't Simon have smelled it when the bottle smashed? Because Maggie dropped it. Would have dropped the scent all into the room.
Yeah, I think that's fair, Mr. Griffith, for your information anyway. And this might be something that you pick up on later, because in the course of getting ready to leave, Mr. Fraser makes it pretty adamant that he wants to get to the bottom of why the Duke was here. That scent that the Duke wore has been worn by one other person, and that's ostensibly Lady Liz's brother, who wears the same cologne. And so it's quite possible that Miss Bellinger is making the wrong correlation in sense between the Duke and her ladyship's.
Okay, we know that, do we? Right, okay.
Well, I would say, I'm saying specifically, Simon would know that because he was there in the cafe, and Richard would know that too, but Richard's a little bit out of it at this point, having spent so many magic points.
Mm-hmm.
Simon, you're saying that this Alexander Fitzgeorge, I really don't like using that name, he wears the same scent. Now, I remember that when I spoke, and you were with me, Miss Bellinger, when I spoke to the perfumier, they said it was a very particular blend. It's a unique scent. The Duke and this Alexander fellow, they both wear the same cologne?
Well, maybe they're in cahoots. I mean, it wouldn't surprise me. I mean, Alexander got funding from somewhere, right?
Well, I suppose that leads me on to the question that if it wasn't the Duke, but it was him, it was your half-brother, your ladyship, what was he doing here?
Holding the medallion a little bit more tightly. Perhaps he was looking for this. Perhaps he expected us to lead him to it. Well, if that's what he thinks, he's got another think coming. Getting a little possessive.
Yeah, I think it's fair to give everyone here who desires, or I would say anybody here who has over the bar requisite in psychology, you can have your roll for psychology.
I have a 62 in psychology. Yeah, that's a 59. That's just a success normal.
Yeah, it's pretty clear to you that Lady Elizabeth has become quickly and very extremely attached to this object.
Now, Maggie failed her psychology test, and that may be because this seems perfectly normal to me.
Oh, yeah, totally. I mean, it seems reasonable. Sure, it's hers. She found it.
Mm-hmm.
And actually, Miss Bellinger might say, well, wait a minute. Why aren't everybody's trying to take that away from her yet?
Yeah, hey, you're drunk to me.
Perhaps, Your Ladyship, we should put this amulet in a safe place, a box or a trunk or something with the...
I don't think so. If it's as valuable as we think it is, letting it out of hand could lead to it being stolen. I'll take good care of it.
Are you sure? I mean, maybe it would be better under lock and key.
Jim, how about we just get a chain? That way she can wear it around her neck under her clothes.
Oh, that's a marvelous idea, Mr. Griffith.
And you won't then you can use your hands for other things instead of holding it. We just got to get a move on. This place is haunted, okay? Haunted. And there's haints about, there's perfume monsters about, and I don't know what else.
Even worse, my half-brother.
Perfume monsters.
On that note, then, we'll see the investigators heading back to Anton's cottage in the country where they can plot their next move. One final note, though, that would be for Lady Elizabeth, who, as she exits the villa and heads off towards the cottage, she no longer feels the bore wind on her skin. The cold is gone. Trieste is nice. And we'll pick it up next week. So thank you so much for joining us on this episode of Horror on the Orient Express. We greatly appreciate your listening ears. Thank you and good night.